Hi, I'm Mr. A, co-driver of the Toyota Supra and also co-producer of this movie. I'm going to be telling you a little bit about this. What you're going to see is the unedited version of the movie, starting a little bit earlier, where it was actually supposed to start. You might ask why Mr. X or Mr. Z isn't doing this, but due to legal reasons, because they were the drivers, they can't do this. So I'm going to try to do this as best as I can now. What you see here is the same street as the Porsche was driving in the first movie, coming up to the same, starting in the same tunnel. This is the actual start, how it was intended. Everything was planned which car to go first and everything like that, but it doesn't actually work like that when you're doing 120, 130 miles an hour. It's really hard to coordinate those things. Right here we're up to speed. It's about maybe 90, 100 miles an hour. The reason why it didn't start here is, as you'll see later, the tunnel was closed off, one of the lanes, so it's only one lane each way, and we ended up behind another car, which was not, what we wished for, but I still think it worked out. It wasn't that exciting, the stuff that we cut away. And also we're a little bit careful since there are construction workers involved over here. As you see, this is where the Porsche went into the tunnel in the first movie. Actually, the part of the tunnel that's closed off, so you can't see the exit. Coming in from the south of Stockholm, ended up behind this van here. Was driving the speed limit, so we're sitting here swearing. You can actually hear the really nice sound of the Supra bouncing off the walls here. The reason why the sound is so bad from the Escort is the microphone was rigged and the camera was on the top. And when we lost the camera on the top, we also lost the sound from the exhaust and the microphones that were rigged on the Escort. We have some disturbance on the cameras. We don't know why that happened, but technical stuff is like the reason why the camera on the ceiling died on the Escort. So right here, pass. And the driver, Mr. Z, in the Escort, Cosworth, is trying to get past here, but there's traffic coming up and he didn't want to do anything really rash because it's not that much fun meeting a truck or someone in a tunnel. So this is where the movie starts. I hope you've seen the other version before you start looking at this one and having to hear my voice all the time. This is the middle of Stockholm. Actually, this goes almost straight through downtown. And here everything's going as planned, who's supposed to go first and who's supposed to be passing, since this is a movie. If you look at the left, you'll see a tower. That's the City Hall of Stockholm, where the Nobel Prize dinner is held every year. And right here, we split up to meet at the end of this thing. Unfortunately, we had a car in the way, but it turned out pretty nice, since he managed to do a very nice passing of this Volvo up here. It's filmed at 5 o'clock in the morning, so some people are on their way to work, but there's not that much people, so we're trying to eliminate the biggest risks. Also, we're still in the middle of Stockholm. You can't really see it because this is right next to the railroad tracks, this street. Now we see that he's catching up, so we speed up with the Supra. Me being on the lookout in the rearview mirror all the time to make sure where the other cars are at. Being the typical lookout, instead of rally where you read the map, I'll be looking around trying to read the traffic as good as I can. There's a lot of tunnels, as you can see. Stockholm, due to the old buildings, they built tunnels to make shortcuts in the traffic to try to avoid the traffic jams. Still doesn't work. Still get the traffic jams. Here we're going out of Stockholm again, and we're turning around up here. And this was supposed to be a motion picture, but since the cameras broke and the cops became so eager to find out who we were, we had to try to change our plans a lot. So what you actually see is that was made. We decided not to cut anywhere in the movie just to make it realistic, because people have a tendency to complain every time. It's like, oh, that's, you know, they've done that to make it look like that. So now we just show it as it was filmed. Here's a nice fishtail by Mr. X. It looks very nice. Slow down into this intersection. This was actually supposed to be cut, and the transport into the city again were supposed to be taken away, and then we'll get some action. People from Stockholm would see it, but people not from Stockholm would just think it was more exciting, because this distance driving into the city tend to get a little bit boring. Now we decided to put Hannah's voice here, and we think it worked out pretty well, because we got to explain some things what we intended with the movie. So some of the things you hear me say has actually been said by Hannah in the original version of the movie. Another thing you got to keep in mind is that you can't afford to make any mistakes making a movie like this. There's only one take, and you don't get a second chance, and you don't really have anybody to ask for advice either, so you have to find out for yourself how to film it and how to make it. This tunnel you have to be a little bit careful, because it's known to be slippery, and there's quite a few accidents, because it's the slope of the street makes it really tricky to drive fast in. Here we go down back to the street where we came from. Oh, sorry, this is actually the tunnel that's slippery. My fault. Okay, here starts the driving again. The high-speed driving. Since Stockholm is such a small city, you have to try to figure out ways. I mean, we drive back and forth now. It took 18 minutes, so nice run with the red light. The average speed, somebody calculated, was 100, I believe, let's say it in kilometers, 218 kilometers an hour. It's like over 125 miles an hour. This is where the camera on the side broke from all the rocks. Some construction going on, so. And from the first movie we didn't learn this, because it was only one car. We didn't have all these cars in front of us, and all the rocks coming off the warm tires that are getting really soft by now. So coming down, there's the city hall on the right again. Passing by that, taking a nice left, a nice fishtail until Mr. X sees the police officer at the red light. Hesitate, because we don't really know how to do this, and the escort flies by, passes the cop on the left, we pass him on the right. So I guess that's a shock for him. It's like getting passed by two jets. And here is some real driving. The adrenaline starts pumping. Here's the old town. This street is the same street as the Porsche, and the first one drove but the other way. He took a left up, or took a right for him up that street, or left for us here. So you might recognize this also from the other movie, but going the other way. This is the old town, or Gamla stan as it's called in Swedish. Nice sightseeing now in 18 minutes, Stockholm. There's a nice view. if you have time to stop. Can't really see it now. We're going up a hill. And from here on the left, if you would walk there, you would see the whole city. And the adrenaline is still pumping, still going very fast. Talked to the people at the restaurant at the corner here that we passed. They weren't so happy that we were going that fast in their area. Keep going down south of Stockholm, down the street to the ferry terminal where the boats to Finland goes. We're catching up. The black Supra is right behind the Escort all this time, so we're very close, and we take a pass on the left. He lets us by. We were thinking all this time that the camera filming behind him, filming everything that's behind him on the Escort, was on, but it wasn't, since it broke early in the beginning. Something happened to it, we don't know what. We're doing all our tricks, all the trick driving, but I guess, you know, we know it, but nobody else could see it. So that is too bad. Everybody keeps saying, oh, you should have had camera back, but we did. And something happened, so that's, well, shit happens. We're going into an industrial area where they're rebuilding a lot, so this is my favorite part. This is where you really get the feeling of how the cars move with the streets. Here's a little adventure. We managed to hit something, and if we do this again, there's not going to be out of focus in the camera, I'll tell you that much. Here also really great speeds, concrete on both sides. You get a little bit of computer game feeling here, I think. It's really beautiful. You can also see the acceleration of the Supra. The Escort is more of a track race car with ultimate handling, while the Supra is really fast, going straight. When you see the flames up here from the Supra, from the exhaust, Mr. Z later told us that he thought that we blew the engine. Some real nice skid marks here, painting the street black. I like this part. And then we have a little bit of a semi coming up. We have to stop. And the Swedish Postal Services, somebody almost didn't get their mail. That's their car. Mr. X being careful with the magnesium rims, which I can understand. And here's a really fast part also. We have the cops waiting for us around the corner. We didn't know this, but it's an exciting extra feature. So we get over the hill. And here we go. One on each side waiting for us. I wonder what they thought about this, taking that street on the wrong side of the curb. One of the cars, the one on the right, actually tried to follow us. Didn't do that great though. He followed us. I could see him all the way. You can imagine we're right behind the Escort now. So there's a little bit greater risk of us getting caught. When we took this left, that's the last we saw, the following police car. Then we lost him. Mr. Z driving a little bit more careful around the corners, not knowing if there's spike strips or what's going to be around it. So, but we're always trying to be as safe as you can doing something like this. They're both professional drivers with some racing titles behind them, and they really know how to handle a car. Otherwise, I would not sit down in a car with somebody I did not trust like this. A lot of people ask me if I was scared, but no. I get scared riding with my mother sometimes, but not with these guys. I trust them more than if I would be by the wheel myself. So, here again, thinking the camera behind was working, doing all our tricks back and forth on the other side of the street. great speeds here. We actually tried to pass him. You can see our headlights a little bit on the left there. But then we slowed down and got in behind again. Some problems again with the autofocus here. Water drops getting on the lens. But then it managed to focus again. So, here we go. Here is the only time I felt a little bit nervous. It was meeting this cop car because he decided to go into our lane. We had to pass him, one car on each side. Just not to get into an accident. It's not so smart getting in our lane when we were doing about 120 miles an hour. And he tries to stop us with his own car. But then again, it is the car for special, like the special police of Sweden, and those guys have, their testosterone level is a little bit higher than regular people or regular cops. So that's something you gotta live with. Here again, going down the freeway. There's also a very nice part with this all-wheel drive car doing a power slide like this. Very impressive. Too bad that the other two cameras didn't work, so you could see it a little bit better, but you can still get the feeling of it sliding sideways. So, very impressive driving. Now we're back on the road where we started the movie. We started a little bit down, so we're not driving the same. You won't recognize anything on the sides, but it's the same down the same freeway, a little bit further down, further west, I believe. And we were passing on the right, tried to pass, but there was a car in our lane there, so we had to go behind. That's why you don't see the Supra now for a little while, because at these speeds, about 150, 160 miles an hour, it takes a little while to pass. So, but soon, Mr. Z is nice enough to let us pass by. Some people ask if we had cellular phones to talk to each other, but no, we tried that, but it didn't work. We had the cables from the cameras out of the sunroof and out of the side window of the Escort, so it was too much noise, so it didn't work. Here we go, here's a little nice 180 miles an hour pass. I really like this picture coming out of the mist. We were lucky with the weather. This is the third day of filming. 2 other days we had some problems with the gearbox and worn out tires. So we didn't want to risk anything and start, so we had to take care of those things. This is a Wednesday, I believe. We did this. Always using the turn signal. At least the cops can't get him for that. Just like they taught him in driver's ed. There's a little bit where we show the speedometer in the other, in the original version of the film. As you can see, the Escort Cosworth was catching up a little bit here because of this dip in the road, and with the softer suspension of the Supra, it's hard to keep as high speed, but now we're taking off again because of the higher top speed of the Supra. And down here is our guys waiting for us. And I guess this was my 15 minutes of fame. Thank you for listening, and I hope you agree with me when I say reality beats fiction by far.